Welcome, folks. Good morning. We begin a new mimer, new Hasidic discourse, getting ready for the month of Elul, which will be upon us in a week. It's a good time to get ready. We are learning the mimer, the discourse, Ani Ladoidi V'Doidi Li, words from King Solomon in Song of Songs, Shir Hashirim. I'm to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. Words that refer to the Jewish soul speaking to God. The Jewish soul is the feminine part of the divine. God is the male. So the soul, the Jew speaks to God, I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me, which is a Rosh Tevis, if you take the word. Ani, Aleph, Ledoidi, Lamed, Vedoidi, Vav, Li, Lamed. Aleph, Lamed, Vav. Lamed spells hello. So it's the acronym for the month of Elul, Rosh Tevis. This mimer is based on Likutei Torah from the Alter Rebbe's teachings. Has so many mimarim are. Well, let's get right into it. Ani ledoidi v'doidi li. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. Rosh Tevis Elul is the acronym for Elul, and it's explained in Likutei Torah with this divrei maskal, this words that begin the teachings, that this is connected to the month of Elul. Why? Because Elul is a preparation month for a new year, which is the concept of an awakening from within, right? Whole year has passed since last Rosh Hashanah, or 11 months, and it's a time to kind of wake up, right? An awakening from within, an arousal from within, that we got to come closer to Hashem, right? It's taking stock, if you will, right? So, and that is ani starts with me, meaning an awakening from within. And right? L'doidi, to my beloved. So it starts from the individual. That is the words, ani l'doidi, the first two words. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is more about, the beginning of it. I don't know, I wouldn't say the words more about, but it begins not from within, it begins from above. Rosh Hashanah, who doesn't have a sense of, the new year, Yom Kippur, fasting like angels? It's sort of, it's God kind of showering us from above with a divine light, that the awakening or the arousal begins from above, not from below, not from within. Of course, we need to respond to that, right, as everything. But that's the point being, the starting point is from above. It's Rosh Hashanah, it's Yom Kippur, awesome days. Just, saying it that way is, the day is awesome. Now the question is if I'm attuned to it or not, right? Meaning it begins from above, okay? which in the words of Anila Doidi V'Doidi Li are the words V'Doidi Li, my beloved is to me. Right? So this is what the Alter Rebbe explains in Likkutei Torah. And this is what Elul is. Elul is Rosh Teva. I am to my beloved is to me. That is included in Elul. In other words, simply understood, how do you understand this? That the awakening from below, right? Anila Deidi, which is in the month of Elul, is also a preparation for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, right? That's what it means. We're preparing for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. The Deidi Li. That's a simple understanding, right? Is that clear? And that's why the words for Deidi Li are in the words of Elul, even though that's being Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, which is not in the month of Elul, right? It's the month of Tishrei, because Elul is a prep for that. But we need to understand, says the Rebbe. Baruch atah Eloheinu shehakol nigmar. Chaim l'chaim, everybody.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay. But we need to understand, says the Rebbe, based on the teachings of the Alter Rebbe in Likkutei Torah, since the letters V'Doidi Li, which are a reference to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, right? My beloved is to me. That's a reference to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. They are in the acronym of Elul, right? They're in the acronym of Elul. It sounds in the Chodesh Elul is not just a preface, a preparation for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, for Doidi Li. But in the month of Elul itself, there's got to be something called V'Doidi Li, my beloved is to me. Right? And what's that? What's the Doidi Li? We understand Doidi Li, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. We get that. And we get that it's a prep. But the Rebbe is saying it can't be just a prep. It's also a prep, but there must be a Doidi Li in Elul itself. There must be something that's coming from above. Okay. That's the preface of this mimer. So it continues in the mimer. From the Alter Rebbe's mimer, right? That Elul is a time of what's called Yud Gimel Midas Harachim, the 13 divine attributes of compassion. Right? Meaning God's compassion is at that time, the month of Elul. Which, by the way, we're getting prepared for it. It's coming. Rosh Chodesh is 2 days, next Tuesday and Wednesday. So we're getting prepped for it. That even though Elul is, from within, from below to above, from within in art, right? The awakening from within, nonetheless, this awakening of the individual, especially if you're distant from Hashem, which in a sense, we all are very close and also very distant, right? So even though, again, as a general principle, we it's about the awakening from within, yet in specific, if the more we sense our distance from Hashem, so even though, again, generally it's about an awakening from within, right? Yet, yet, since the 13 divine attributes are shining at this time, or at the time of Elul, right? That gives what we call a nesinas koyach. It gives space for an, if you will, an empowerment. I don't know if that's the right word, but to give power from above, right? That's the 13 divine attributes of compassion. It's an empowerment from above. It's not our compassion, it's God's compassion that shines then. So there's this empowerment, right? And this is to every person, even those who are distant from God, get that empowerment of the 13 divine attributes of compassion. Now, this is coming from above. Now, it's only it's only an empowerment, if you will, and not a real awakening. A real awakening is it's Yom Kippur. Like, God made the day awesome. We didn't make the day awesome. God made it awesome. Of course, we need to be aware of it. We need to connect to it, right? Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, very, very clear that that's, we need to be attuned to it. But the awesomeness is what God made. He made a day that we can coronate God as King. Rosh Hashanah made a day that we can be forgiven for all sins. It's not of our making. That's an awakening from above, right? That's like being showered from above. Elul, 13 divine attributes of compassion. It's an empowerment, but it's not like this awesome, takeover. Not a takeover of the person, right? It's an empowerment. But the real work comes from within of Elul. Okay. And in that respect, there's some virtue of Elul over Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which is V'doidi li, that my beloved is to me, and the 10 days of penitence. Why? Whatever I do in those days is a result of what God did about those days. So I'm sort of like reacting to what God created. He created a Rosh Hashanah, he created a Yom Kippur. So I'm being reactionary to it. That's why it's an awakening from above. Okay. I mean, that itself is a wonderful and a great accomplishment. A lot of people are not reactionary to it, but in the end, I am reactionary to it. Not Elul, even though there's an empowerment, but I'm not reactionary to Elul. It's an awakening from within. I have to create yeah. And in that respect, there's something better and greater, because the main thing about our divine service is it's got to be done b'koyach atzma. It's got to be done with your own effort, with your own strength, not someone else's strength, right? Religion is not a crutch for the opiate. For the masses, rather. It's not the opiate of the masses, right? It's not, because it's got to be done with your own power, with your own strength. Elul is much more that than Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Yet there is again this empowerment, right? Now, to further clarify this idea that, that ani l'doidi v'doidi li, I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me, right? That this is merely an empowerment, right? Not, um, an awakening from above, right? These two ideas, that there's the 13 divine attributes of divine compassion that shines in the month of Elul to everyone, even if you're distant from God, right? And nonetheless, it's merely an empowerment. It's not, it's an empowerment. That's all it is. It's not a takeover, right? In the Maimer, in the Alter Rebbe continues that and he gives a metaphor. We've learned before this concept, because this is the famous metaphor of the king in the field, right? As opposed to king in his palace. Right? Where is the main glory of the king? Right? So he's sitting on his throne with his Keser Malchus, with his crown. That's the main glory of the king, right? And that's like awesome. And we want the return of the king to his former glory. We want God to return to his former glory. But the metaphor here of the month, and that's month of Tishrei, you're in the inner chamber of the king. But then there is the king in the field. Right? Which in the field means it's just more accessible to everybody, even if you're distant from the king. He's accessible, as opposed to being in the inner chamber of the king. Is not accessible. Only special individuals can get there, right? Not everybody gets to go inside there. Just not the case. Okay, more on this to come. Of this beautiful metaphor. All right.